Good evening. Welcome to the final word with me, Irish Tommy. But I won't be here on my own tonight. I have Luke. How we doing, mate?
I have arrived. I am
Yes,
here. Don't
you're
worry.
here, fashionably late and looking very suave, I must say.
Thank you very much. Well, sir, West Ham own official merchandise. So as much as I'm a GSB out kind of guy, I don't mind buying a bit of their merch if it looks nice. So, bit of a hypocrite like that, if you get what I mean. So,
It's,
yeah,
uh, it's hard to look past the
I can
nice
say,
blubber, isn't it?
yeah, somewhat, but hopefully I'll suit it well. Um, yeah. So, how are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, good. I'll tell you honestly, I'm disappointed about today, I must say. These home games are massively important, and it's really important that we continue to win them. And today, obviously, we weren't able to do that, and so even though the performance was better than it was against Brighton, considerably better, it must be said, and it's a game really that we should have taken more than a point from. So I'm just disappointed that we've had to settle for a point at home.
It's frustrating, isn't it? Um, I've got to say, I've got to be honest with you. Today was the first time I actually felt like we were going to go down because we. I've always said, I said like last week when we lost to Man United away in the cup that I don't care if we win, lose or draw as long as we play well, and that is true to a point. But little things like today, being at home, having home advantage against a team that sort of near enough around us anyway. Um,
Yeah,
you know, for me, you have to win certain games. There's certain games you have to win, especially when you're in the predicament we're in. And although we played well and we went for it and we created chances, we didn't have that killer instinct. And for me, that it will be our ultimate downfall because it's fine Moyes setting us up not to concede. But what's going to keep you up fundamentally is wins and his goals. And we couldn't buy that today. And um, his decision when we needed a goal not to bring on our record signing goal scorer highlights a massive flaw in the bloke's makeup. Um, I kind of get it if it was for like 5 minutes earlier on in the game that he brought Ings off because Ings wasn't going to score if he'd have played 100 minutes today, I don't think.
yeah,
And I understand where he's coming from, the pace to get around. Ings isn't exactly slow, but Cornet obviously has more pace about him. But to expect a lot from a bloke who's been out for God knows how long, and not to rely on your striker, especially when we're putting balls over the top of the Aston Villa defence to run onto. It's worrying. To me, it worried me and it frustrated me. And I've got nothing against the players because for me, the players done all they could. They were, again, they were hindered because we were telling them, obviously Moyes was saying to them, don't pressurise too much, even though they were sort of like, hovering the ball around their area with Martinez, Mings, and the other defender. And there's one point where all the fans are going pressurising, and Ings was going, no, remember the game plan, calm down. And for me as a fan, it was frustrating because I think the team's better than that, but not the manager on my side.
yeah, and I think the disappointing thing for me was, as you said, Moyes just will not grab the bull by the horns in a game. He just won't do it. We were playing pretty well. We were getting the ball into their final third. We were threatening at times, and it was poised at 1-1. And I think we all felt that the game was there and could be won by us. And Moyes never grasps the nettle, does he? He just you could see even in the substitution, it's like respect the point. He doesn't ever feel like, right, let's push now and try and get this winner and take all 3 points. We're at home. Villa, we've got their measure largely. We're playing well, and let's go get these points now. And he just doesn't think that way ever. The only thing that was in his mind in that second half was respect the point. Let's make sure we don't end up losing the game. And so he never really goes to try and win a game. So, for example, I mean,
Do you know, I wouldn't quite agree with that though. I normally think he does think like that, but I wouldn't quite say respect the point, because we did attack them, and there was, I could count in my hand 5 times we had a chance to score in front of goal, and the players didn't take it. So there is partly blame. I'm not blaming the players for being, unwilling to win. I'm blaming the players in a way for not having the ability to do it, because
I'm talking about the crunch time in the game.
Yeah.
When it was there to be won, there were substitutions he could have made that could have
I
helped
agree with that.
us
So I
out.
agree with that. Yeah,
That we could have found a goal from.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, he takes off Paqueta, brings on Fornells. I never thought that was going to do anything. I wouldn't have brought Paqueta off personally. I'd have left him on there.
Did he ever knock? Someone said, or it was I think it was for the yellow card, because I thought he was going to get a red today. I thought he was getting a bit frustrated.
I think sometimes you just have to gamble on players just knowing a bit better, to be honest.
Gamble.
But yeah, I mean, it's just have a word with him. Say, look, you're obviously on the yellow. When there's a break in play, have a word. Say, look, just be careful. No silly challenges. Don't get yourself sent off. I think you have to have some level of trust in players to not do anything silly. So I wouldn't have taken him off personally. I'd have left him on. But even if you were going to take him on just to play it safe, so he doesn't get sent off because he's on a yellow, bringing on Fornells and moving Soucek back, I just thought, oh God, what is this? That's just so negative to me. I mean, I would have loved to have seen. If I'm on that sideline, I'm thinking the complete opposite to Moyes. I'm thinking we're going to go win this game. I leave Paqueta on. I have a word and say, look, just be careful. You're on the yellow. We've seen players carry yellows for 80 minutes, before in games. It doesn't mean he's going to get sent off. Have a quick word, settle him down, make sure he understands not to do anything silly. Leave him in there and, get Soucek off. Soucek wasn't carrying any threat whatsoever in that game.
Yeah.
Get him off. Get Scamacca on there. Play him in the number 10. Get an extra attacking player on there. Stay positive. Let's try and go and win it. And then, he brings Cornet on in the 86th minute.
Yeah.
86th. Where Ings had been, struggling all game, to kind of get anywhere. And I just don't understand it whatsoever. You could even bring Scamacca on earlier as a direct replacement for Ings. You could bring Cornet on earlier, replace Soucek with him. Move Benny to number 10 if you want, with Cornet on the left. Get more attackers on and say, right, we're going to really put pressure on you now on your back line, because for long periods we were in the ascendancy. From what I was watching today, as soon as Paqueta went off, Villa had their best spell in the game. As soon as he went off, it was like Villa were pressing. And I just, Moyes' attitude and the way he uses the subs just drives me crazy, because I think he could have been positive today, and he wasn't. It was his usual kind of, let's be cagey, let's make sure we just don't lose it. We'll take the point.
Did you expect him to be any different though, honestly?
No, but it still doesn't mean I'm going to be happy. It's fucking.
No.
I mean, it's like there's. I suppose, to be honest, there's a part of me that kind of thinks even David Moyes, in certain circumstances, maybe will realise we really, really could use a win here, and might go against his own nature just to say, fuck it, we've got to win this. We need a win. We need 3 points. I thought, given that our away form is shocking, and we're probably going to pick up very few points away from home for the rest of the season, our home form is essentially what's going to keep us in the Premier League. And we can't afford games like today, in my opinion. There's going to be fans as well, who are just like Moyes. I'll respect the point. It's a good point. It lifted us just outside the relegation zone. That's not going to keep us up, in my opinion. We've only got so many home games, and we've got to start winning them. And Moyes has got to start taking calculated risks. I'll get, do you know what cracks me up? Every time I say, do something positive and go and try and win the game, people say, oh, well, yeah, you can't just throw the kitchen sink at it and then you concede and you lose the game. No one's talking about throwing the kitchen sink at anything.
No.
You can make positive substitutions, to go and try and win a game without leaving yourself completely wide open.
Mm.
You know, what would the harm have been? For example, having Scamacca playing in that number 10 role where Souček was getting on the ball in and around them areas where Souček was picking it up. What harm would that have done to us defensively, realistically? Not a whole lot. Scamacca will come back and do the corners. He's very tall. He can head a ball away. You know, it's like, I just don't understand it. I just have that naivety. I think you're right, though, Luke. I think I need to wake up and realise that no matter what the circumstances are, Moyes will never actually make those kind of positive subs to try and go and win a game.
I wasn't surprised at all, but it did kind of, in a way, it felt like a bit of a slap in the face when Aston Villa were making several subs and we'd made one in Paqueta for 4 hours, and then to leave it so late when we had a chance to win the game, I was like, and it was more the fact that it wasn't just the timing of the subs, it was the sub itself, and I thought to myself, well, you know, you can see Scamacca on the sideline warming up, and he seemed to be genuinely, like, you know, up for it. I mean, I'm the other side of the stadium. I'm you know, I'm in the Billy Bond stand, and I can see him, like, you know, ready to go and stuff like that. And to bring Cornet on, to me, it's a huge slap in the face. It's a massive slap in the face. It's like I said, I can understand if you're going to do that for a little while, just to try and maybe drain Aston Villa defenders' energy for 5 minutes by getting Cornet to run through them and give him to run on or something. But you know, the guy's been out for a long while, and it's you can't expect him to be, you know, bursting through and scoring goals, because I don't think he's ever been up. I don't know if there's any Lyon fans who are watching this who could tell me if Cornet's ever played as a striker for Lyon in the past. I think he maybe has once or twice due to injuries or something like that. But fundamentally, he's a winger. He's slash wing back and whatever. So you take someone like Bowen off. Bowen, for me, had a good game. There was one chance he missed in the second half when he got past and he cut it back, I think, to 4 hours. Wrong decision for me. He should have shot. But apart from that, he was back to his best today. I just wish he'd have had a clear shot and goal. But to leave Scamacca off and in his position put Cornet on, to me, the slap in the face. I wouldn't blame at all Scamacca if he went and put in a transfer request right now. There's a picture going around social media where he's looking dejected, sitting by the fans, and I don't blame one little bit. You know, maybe he is, if he says something in the press or he starts getting someone to go, it's the start of the end of Moyes' era, just to, you know, to get the ball rolling, because it's not nice as well, because you know he wants to play. I know he's not had the best career at West Ham so far with injuries and stuff like that, but, you know, for me, I've kind of lost count the amount of times where the ball, especially from Kera, went over the top, across field and over the Aston Villa defenders, and 2 of our players were running onto it. And, you know, I'm not saying Scamacca is the quickest in the world, but if you're talking about someone who gets into position to finish, to bring the ball down and hit it, I fancy Scamacca over a lot of our players. So the fact he didn't feel like bringing him on, and Lanzini apparently as well was training down there and looked up for it and didn't come on. Moyes is killing these players. There's no doubt about it. Moyes is killing morale. He's killing any sort of ability that these players could have to flourish at West Ham. He's all about his favourites, and, you know, I'm just make a quick point about the signings. I think if Moyes had his own way, he'd have only brought Agard in at the summer, and he wouldn't have brought in all the rest of the players. It would have been the same old from last season, and Antonio up front, what have you, and carry on from there. It's Moyes is his own worst enemy, and unfortunately we're having to experience it and sit through it. So it's not nice for us, and I've never felt sorry for professional multi-millionaire Premier League footballers before, but I'm starting to feel sorry for our players now, because to play under that manager, it must be soul destroying, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard this. I was on before the game with Anton, and you remember last week at Brighton when there was a break in play, Moyes was giving instructions to Declan Rice, and Declan then just threw his bottle down, walked away shaking his head. That was at 2-0. From what I've heard, Moyes was telling Declan Rice to make sure that they shut up shop and didn't concede any more than the 2. To keep it to 2-0 and not concede any more. His only concern, he was giving up the game. His only concern was don't lose by any more than 2 goals. He was thinking about nothing but goal difference at 2-0 down. And that tells you everything you need to know. I mean, as a player, if you're playing for a guy with an attitude like that, I like you. I think the players looked incredibly fed up. And despite the fact we played better today, and despite the fact that we got a point from that game, I think privately, if you were to talk to the players and they were to be honest with you, given again the substitutions that were made today and the timing of those substitutions, I think even the players would say shocking, absolutely shocking that he didn't put us in a better position to go and win that game, which he could have done. That still, all he had in his head was let's not lose it. I tell you what, I'm really worried now because I think the players have completely lost faith in him. Completely lost faith in him. I don't think they like the approach to games. I don't think they like the way he thinks about football, the subs he makes, his bizarre kind of infatuation with sitting on points, even sitting on defeats, just to make sure things don't get any worse. That to me is the kind of thing that gets you relegated.
I've been hearing there's been a few videos in the past week or so that's been talking about potential player mutiny. I don't know if it happened. You might be able to tell me this. There's been rumours or various reports that under Kirbishley, I think it was, when he lost the dressing room, he was given the players instructions, and they go out and do the exact opposite because they didn't trust or believe in his ability as a manager and abilities and tactics. Now, as much as I respect the fact that the players respect the manager and the position that they're in and the instructions they give out, surely at some point, if you're that unhappy with the manager's instructions, you either don't play through or you do the complete opposite of what he wants you to do. So if the players are sitting there going, we're better than this, you'd think these players with massive egos, with agents in their ear all the time, you'd think that they'd go, I'm not playing this, I'm a better player than this, I'm gonna try and do the opposite, I'm gonna try and go and win this game. So to a level, I want the players to step up a little bit more. I want them to go, we're going to attack, whether you like it or not, because Moyes seems a bit of a bully at times, the way he talks about players and the way he talks about the way they play. And all it takes is for someone to just go, right, we're not having it anymore. We're going to attack now. We're better than this, and it starts a chain reaction. And I think the game against Brighton last week, if Declan Rice is throwing a bottle about, do you know what? Get a bottle inside you, grow your bottle, and go and play out in the field against Brighton and try and score a goal. Don't defend and try and concede this goal. Go out there and do it. Grown men, they're grown men. Stand up for yourself. If you don't like it, you don't just sit there and go, okay, it's fine, that's right, it's fine. No, stuff him. If you don't like him,
and funnily enough, we know actually from former players, not necessarily of West Ham, but former players of other clubs, that they've been in that position because they've spoken about it after retirement, where they've spoken about a particular manager, where they just hated the setup and they hated the way they were being asked to play. And it came to the point where the players did actually decide, you know what, to hell with him. We're just going to go out and play our way, the way we feel is going to get as a result, regardless of what tactics he wants us to play. And I'd love to see the West Ham players do it, and I hope they do. Because I mean, they might keep us up in spite of David Moyes if they do that.
That is the only thing that I think maybe if they do go and stay up, they're worried that Moyes will get the praise in some way or another. But then there's obviously avenues you can go about to say, no, it wasn't him. On Declan Rice, I think today I kind of felt a little bit like, you could see his leadership qualities lacking, because I think when we went 1-0 down, his head dropped. I saw it on as the players were lining up again to kick off. His head was slumped down, and he weren't happy. And fair enough, look, he's an emotional he's an emotional guy, so he's going to get unhappy at some stage. But
can you blame him though? Can you blame the players for being completely dejected playing for this dinosaur?
Where I'm concerned with Declan Rice is I do blame him a little bit. Yes, I do, because he's the captain fundamentally, and he's been all over it when we're winning, and he's being praised, and England's golden boy in the midfield and whatever have you like that. So
Yeah,
for
but they're
me,
also human beings, Luke. Do
I
you know
know
what I
they are.
mean?
I know they
Like
are.
all season they've been doing this. And I think up until very recently, I think the players have tried and tried and tried and tried. They have flogged themselves in this system all season. I think the players have reached a breaking point. That's my honest opinion. I think they've reached a breaking point.
I totally agree. But what I'm saying is I'm referring to players like Scott Parker. When Scott Parker was the captain, he would drag us through. You know, you're talking about being 3-0 down at West Brom in the Scott Parker era, and him giving a rousing team talk at half time, and us getting a 3-3 draw away from West Brom. Carlton Cole coming out and saying it wasn't anything to do with Avram Grant. It was a speech by Scott Parker that gave us motivation to go forward. That's what I'm talking about. That sort of, I know he's a human being, but the same human being will be the one that goes to an award ceremony and presents an award, and then goes and does an interview with GQ magazine and does all this and all that. So I know he's a human being, and I do feel for him, and I think, you know, on his day he's a fantastic player. I've got nothing against him really, but as a captain who's, you know, is a captain of the club, you know, who's meant to be, you know, the leader in the dressing room, and you know, when we're winning, it's great. But I don't want to see my captain's head drop. I want to see my captain, which he's done in the past. I've seen him do in the past. I've seen him, you know, go, come on boys, let's not get their head drops. Let's go. But he's starting to do it more and more often now. I think he played well today. I think he had a good game today. Nothing against the way he played. He almost gave away a penalty, which I think was a penalty in the end. But I'm not gonna. This isn't me slagging off Declan Rice. It's just there was a certain point today where I didn't want his head to drop, and he did, and I didn't see the other players' head drops in the same way. It was just a very visual him, and I thought, come on, Declan, you're the captain, mate. Come on, G the boys up. But I'm not gonna continue to slag him off, because I said my bit in the past anyway. But they are fundamentally, all the players do seem to be, you know, very deflated with and very frustrated with the tactics and the approach. So I'm glad they went out today and gave it a go, which they did. Not going to slag off the players at all today. My only frustration is the decision making and the fact that they couldn't finish off the chances that they created. So, you know, there wasn't at one point you thought Martinez has made an amazing save to keep the ball out. It was just, you know, we took too long to get the shot away, or we made the wrong decision at the wrong time. And fundamentally, whether you like it or not, those are the sort of things that are going to end up sending you down, because you haven't won the game. You haven't done enough to win, and that'll be our downfall. Games like that, when you look back on it and you go, Villa at home, 1-1. Maybe if we'd pushed on, maybe if Moyes brought Scamacca, or maybe this, maybe that. That's what you look back at the end of the day, thinking, well, that point could have been 2, and it's 2 points that saves us from relegation. So I felt sorry for the players in a way, in the fact that they tried and they still couldn't get it done. Bless them. But it wasn't meant to be, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk about the game itself, obviously we started quite brightly. You know, it was all West Ham really, and albeit we didn't really create very much. Had a very early chance, obviously, in the game. Kind of have some half chances, like you said, never really pressed Martinez into anything outside of the routine. But we were on top. We were seemingly in control of the game. Looked in no danger, and then, in typical West Ham fashion, Aston Villa scored on their very first attack. The very first attack of the game ends up in the net. And I have to say, not surprisingly, it came down Kerr's side, because, you know, he was absolutely shocking. He looked like somebody who had never played at right back in his life. He looked like a striker who'd been asked to play as a right back. Remember that time when Bilic put Antonio at right back, and he didn't have a clue what he was doing. And that's what Kerr looked like in the first half. looked like he had no clue. He was out of position every time. Moreno was getting in behind. He was just gone completely missing. And for the Villa goal, ball played out to Moreno. Kehrer just backed off him, stepped away, never tried to close him down. Moreno could just put the ball onto his right foot, have a look up, put the ball in, right onto the head of Ollie Watkins, and he headed in to put Aston Villa 1-0 up. Shocking defending, but it came completely against the run of play, Luke.
It did, and that's a sucker punch that it was like, oh, this is typical, right? I think Watkins had everything right, head the ball down, loop it over. Thing with Kehrer is I actually like him at times. I think he's good at putting balls in the air. He played some fantastic balls in the second half over the top of the Aston Villa defence for us to run onto. The thing that I don't understand about him, and this is something else that I think people have to sort of take a deeper look, is that when we first signed him, he was talked about as being one of the bargains of the season. One of the better players we've signed, right? And now he's almost like one of the worst players we've signed. But he's played for PSG, and I don't care what anyone says. If you're playing in for one of the teams that are trying to win the Champions League every year, they're in one of the richest clubs in the world. They can buy anyone they want, etc., etc. And you're also in, you're one of the number one defenders on the first on the team sheet of Germany. You've got something about you. Possibly is the Premier League is too quick for him. It's too powerful for him. Absolutely, no doubt that's a possibility. But at the same time, I think that, I'm at the point now where I would want Kehrer to have a chance if another manager come in. See if we could get out of Kehrer. Whether Kehrer is better as a holding midfielder than a right back. Is he better as a left wing back? Is he better, at something else rather than just going, okay, because he seems quick enough, but he just seems to get outrun very quickly by sort of fast, tricky wingers, which is a problem in the Premier League.
His positioning
he gets a bit headlight. Doesn't really understand. Bit dopey. Is the term I use, but it did come out of nowhere, and that again is the problem. Is that good teams on their day don't need a lot of chances, and when they get them, they take them. So Aston Villa did. I think Watkins I thought Watkins is a brilliant player. I'd love him at West Ham. I think he's a good player. And I think maybe Ariada was a bit unlucky, or maybe could have done a little bit more. But fundamentally, that was a sucker punch goal. But what I liked about it was the fact that heads didn't totally drop, and we still tried to go for the 1-1, hence getting a penalty. So, it was it's an unfortunate goal to concede. But like I said, we didn't play terrible today, so I'm not frustrated about that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, were you surprised Kehrer came back out for the second half? I thought he was so bad that I would have hooked him. As bad as Johnson was last week, I would have said, no, this is going to cost us like 3 goals. We leave this guy on. So I would have put Johnson on at half-time and just say, all right, let's hope Johnson is a bit more defensively solid against Moreno than Kehrer. So I was a little bit... Now, to be fair...
Well, I thought, it's ironic.
Better second half, but...
it's ironic that you say bring him on.
That change wasn't made.
It's ironic you say bring Johnson on, because you just said both players, but one was terrible last week and one was terrible this week. So you're bringing one crap on for the next crap one. So
yeah, it's like, how would you like to die, isn't it?
Possibly Moyes has put faith in him that he'll improve in the second half, and realistically he did. I think he still
not nearly as much threat came down that side second half, it must be said.
No, and he put some really good balls in. Won a good header in the second half as well to go knock it out. I think he's got something about him. I think he's very, very green, as they say. He needs time to adjust to the Premier League. It takes some players a long time, and unfortunately, we haven't got the time to players to take a long time. So we need, possibly even needs to foul back to go back for his injury, which I don't think is going to happen for a little while now. So
obviously we've got a little break now, so before the Southampton game, so it'd be great if we could have him back for that. Obviously, then not too long after we equalised, ball came in from the cross. Excuse me. Martinez was all flappy as he was all day. It fell to it fell to Paqueta, who
Yeah,
hit a shot in which bounced and was headed off the line, came back his direction. He had Leon Bailey with him, but he just held him off and turned. Good first touch to control it, and then went down. Penalty was awarded, which VAR verified, bizarrely, because I thought there was no contact from Leon Bailey's legs on Paqueta's legs. I thought he went down looking for it. Ref gave it, and VAR for some reason decided, yeah, it looks good. There was never a pen for me. You think?
I honestly I didn't see it. I didn't see
Oh,
it
okay.
from where I'm sitting. That is the opposite end of where I am, and
Oh, okay.
I'm in the top tier as well. So basically, what I saw was the ball come down and Piquet go, boom, and I thought,
Yeah. I mean, credit to Paqueta. He bloody sold it well. Sometimes you see players go down and they oversell it,
yeah, yeah,
and they're too dramatic, and it
yeah,
looks like faked, and they don't get
done,
it. The
yeah,
way he went down, it looked like his stone wall had been tripped. Um, so he sold it really well. Because when I saw it in real time, I thought, "Oh, penalty!" It looked like Leon Bailey
yeah,
had tripped him. And then you see the replays. The ref gave it. Obviously, he bought it as well. You see the replays, and you're like, "Oh, their legs didn't touch." Like he basically what
yeah.
Paqueta did that thing where he put one leg foot across the other and went over.
Basically,
No,
he
it looked,
dived, Tommy. He
yes,
dived. He's
essentially
a
he dived.
diver, and we don't like divers. We hate divers. Well, I
Yeah.
hate divers.
There was a little
Uh,
bit of upper body contact where
right.
Bailey did kind of put a hand on him, like up
Ah,
shoulder, but
that
he didn't.
changes things.
Well, yeah, but you see, like that
I
didn't
don't,
trip him
I,
up. I mean,
no, no.
it was a slight contact. I mean, it wouldn't knock a child, but there was no contact of their legs whatsoever.
Mm.
And Paqueta went down like he'd been tripped up, which he absolutely had not. I think he felt the hand on his shoulder and just thought, "I'm just going to go over here." I was really surprised that VAR just said, "Yeah, it looks good." I really was.
Oh,
I
that's
think if you see it again, that was not a pen, in my opinion. I have to be honest; it was no way a pen. But nonetheless, look, we got it. But to even things out, there was another corner where Buendia absolutely dragged Danny Ings down with both his arms around his waist. I
yeah,
mean, dragged him to the ground. That was a stonewall penalty that was completely ignored or just not seen whatsoever by the ref. So we should have had a legitimate one anyway, which we didn't get. So I
right.
guess it evens out. But Benny stepped up and absolutely drilled it into the roof of the net. Great penalty.
Yeah, I'm quite glad he actually smashed that because I didn't. I thought Ings was going to take it. I really thought I'd have let the striker take it against his former club. And then when Benny took, I didn't watch it. I couldn't watch it. I had my head in my hat. I couldn't watch it. I know. I'll wait for the reaction of the player. And then when he took it, when I saw that he smashed it, I thought, oh, brilliant. Do you know what? There's probably a lot of frustration has gone into that shot, and he's just giving it a wallop, and that's fundamentally what you want to see. Actually, sometimes if you can, tuck it in the bottom corner with power, with pace, fantastic. But if you can't, then leather it, do a Julian Dix, just smash
Yeah.
it, and that's what he done. Don't get to keep a chance, and he didn't, and it's 1-1, and fair play to him. He deserves a goal, to be fair.
Yeah, he did, and he. We'll get on to individual players later on. Obviously, went in at the break 1-1, but it was deserved. Like it would have been a bit of a robbery had Villa gone in at 1-0 up. I mean, we absolutely deserved to at least be level at half
Yeah,
time.
yeah. No, like I said, we gave it a go. It was kind of, for me, it was like almost Nottingham Forest vibes. It was, we were playing well, much better than we had done previously, and trying to take a chance, not really creating that many clear cut chances, but trying to do this and that, which is nice to see. And it was almost one of the games you thought, the last game we played here, we beat Nottingham Forest 4-0 after so long of being 0-0, and could it be one of those games again where we suddenly turn on the tap and it's just goals raining goals? But I think Villa were a different kettle of fish, and they had, I think, a lot more possession and stuff in the first half, the way they were going about it, and they were trying to spray it across the back line, and we were letting them play football. So perhaps they knew in the second half we were probably going to try and push on them more and try and create more things. But certainly in the first half, I think it was pretty match for match game.
Yeah, and we obviously came out in the second half quite lively as well, and had created an opportunity immediately. We ball was played diagonally out to the right to Bowen, beat his man, put the ball across, came to Benny, who tried a first time effort to put it back across the keeper, but it was Matty Cash, I think, got a block on it, which
Yeah,
deflected it straight to Martinez. But straight away came out with intent, could have scored there. And that was good to see that the intent was there, that we're getting forward, trying to score. Unfortunately, didn't manage it, but it was positive right from the off again.
yeah, we needed to start like that. We needed to sort of show that we weren't gonna come down our tails between our legs and show a bit of fight. And I think we did that. I think we didn't go too over the top. There was a certain point where you kind of go, well, they are very good on the counter and putting the ball over. So maybe we don't need to pressurise that much, because if they do happen to get the ball out from under us, they're going to be tough to defend against, and they could easily score a goal. So to a level, I think we pressed just as well as we could have done. Ings was telling the players not to go too gung ho from like great free kicks or Martinez having the ball or something like that. But what I like most is we seem to be, we played the ball over the top quite a lot, and then we were doing little triangles and Ben Rama was trying to create things on the left hand side with Emerson and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and I tell you that diagonal long ball in behind was on all day long.
yeah,
They were playing a high line, and there were a number of occasions where we had the opportunity to play the ball in over the top and made a mess of it. There were a few players who should have found passes in behind, and didn't complete those passes, and I was really frustrated by that, because that ball was on all day.
yeah. It was just, I didn't think we were. That is when you kind of actually almost like need an Antonio, because he'll burst through that defence and he will run onto those balls. And yeah, okay, he might not finish it, but he would be devastating to that effect. And Ings, as much as I think he's a good player, he kind of needs a clear cut chance, or a chance in the box or something like that. So playing the ball over to him, I don't think was ever really going to amount to anything. But playing it over to Ben Rama or Bowen, or an Emerson, and even was probably going to do a bit more damage, but just never come off for us. Just always bounced. Just the touch wasn't there, or the bounce wasn't quite there where we needed it to, or even if we did get in front of the goal, they blocked it, or we didn't get the right shot away at the right time. That's the frustrating thing. And I was kind of really almost. I was actually quite surprised. I don't know if it was as much as I want him out, I hope that while Moyes is there, he's using his tactical ability to the best of his ability. And if he's gone in at half time, say, look, they're going to play the high line, put the ball over, fair play. He's doing his job, because that's what a manager's job is to do, is to spot a weakness and try and get a positive out of it. So if he was telling him to do that, then it was unfortunate we didn't get a goal from it. But it was good to see we were trying something tactically to try and change it around and to our benefit,
Yeah, and I suppose all our joy really came down the flanks. I thought Bowen and Benny were really excellent today. Benny had the measure of Matty Cash really all day, and I thought Bowen completely had the measure of Moreno first, and then Luca Dean when he came on, and we were getting a lot of joy down the sides.
Yeah.
It's a pity we couldn't have made more of that. A number of shots obviously came in, particularly from Benny. He loves to come in, cut inside and get a shot off, doesn't he, Benny? But unfortunately, his finishing, as usual, leaves a lot to be desired. Not his forte, is it, shooting?
No.
But we got a lot of joy down the flanks, and just a pity we couldn't make a bit more of it. I remember, in terms of Bowen, with Benny, it was kind of shots really that he was hitting that weren't coming off.
No.
They was hitting wide or over the bar or straight at the keeper, or they were tame. But on the other side, there was a couple of occasions when Bowen had gotten in behind and
Yeah.
skinned Moreno, and there was one ball he tried to cut back for Paqueta and played it behind him. He just needed to roll it in front of Paqueta for
Yeah.
him to come onto and hit,
Yeah.
and he played it just behind him. So he had to take a touch
Yeah.
to control it and then pass it off again. And then there was again a little later on when Fornells had come on, exact same situation where he just had to roll it in front of Fornells and he played it behind him.
Yeah.
And so just little things like that were the difference, and it was really frustrating. But the game, as I say, ended up 1-1, stalemate. A point, okay, it lifts us just about out of the relegation zone on goal difference, I think. But obviously, for me, it feels like 2 points dropped. I know a
Big
lot of
time.
people say, "Oh, respect the point is a point," but I don't see it like that at this point of the season. I think we have to consider it 2 points dropped, especially considering that we did play well and that we did get into some very, very good positions to hurt Villa. And the fact of the matter is, we didn't score from play. And, the one goal we did get was a dodgy penalty.
Yeah.
So that's a worry. That,
Yeah.
it's bad enough, it's one thing to play really poorly away at Brighton and get beaten. You understand why you've got beat. But it's a worry that even when you play well, you can't put the bloody ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
But it ended 1-1. I don't think we can have too many complaints. You got to put the ball in net at the end of the day, no matter how well you play. But just as regards some players you thought it appeared to you that played really well today from where you were.
Zuma for a start. I thought Zuma didn't really make any
Yeah.
mistakes. I always worry about him. He's got one leg. He's sort of dragging along with him, but he seemed quite fit today. Actually, he did seem fully fit, and he made some. He didn't really make any amazing tackles, but he just seemed cool and calm and done his job properly. Gerd played a couple of really good, fantastic diagonal balls. Still a bit suspect at the back.
I thought Watkins got the better of him today.
Yeah, I'm not sure what is with him. He seemed to have been a Rolls Royce of a defender when he first came in. He was like, "Wow, this is what we've been looking for. This is why we signed him." But just lately, he's been very hot and cold, very 50-50 sort of defender. 1 minute he'll just think world class, the next minute he'll be a bit public, a bit like Antonio at times what he used to be when he was at his best. Bowen was back to his best. Just not scoring wise. I think he made loads of really good chances and running and stuff like that. Ben Rama, everything but finishing. But I'm not really going to moan at him because he created so many chances and never stopped running. Paqueta, for me, was unlucky. I think Paqueta's a sort of man to me. He's in the wrong team with us because he's 10 seconds in front of every other player. They're just not on his level. Passing wise, there was a few people around me who were sort of moaning he was doing all the flicks and tricks, but he's doing that because he's good enough to do that. The players around him aren't good enough to pick up on what he's trying to do. And when he plays the ball, it's only once he's played the ball they realise what he's trying to do. Players on his level know what he's going to do even before he knows what he's going to do. It's if you get what I mean. Emerson, I thought Emerson had a really good game.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Emerson for a second
Yeah.
because I agree. I think Emerson has been fantastic the last few games. I really do, and I think we all had the worry about him because he'd been playing as a wing back and playing really well as a wing back, and the thinking was, can he play as an orthodox left back though? And we were worried that maybe he couldn't do that job so well. But I think in the last few games, he's answered those questions emphatically. He clearly can play very well at left back and did so again today. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, he's good at getting forwards. Made a couple of tackles when he needed to. Played one really good ball. Really, I can't remember. I think it was in the second half. It played one really, really good ball. Yeah, Suchek for me. I've just seen a comment message. Suchek for me is, and I say this with all the respect in the world, is nothing more than a battering ram. There was one time in the first half when he played quite a neat ball, He passed it from the centre circle over to the wing to Emerson. It's the first time I've seen him pass the ball cleanly for about 2 years. His technical ability is shot, and I think he was doing really well against Man United and Nottingham Forest when we just said, go up front. Just go up front. Get up front and support the striker by just being there when we put the ball in the box. Just throw yourself at a defender, or when we're defending, come and do a slide tackle, because that's what he's good at. That's what he's always been good at West Ham. He's not a man to have in the middle spraying balls about. He's the battering ram that challenges defenders and throws himself at attackers. He's a warrior. He's an absolute warrior. The one who used to get cut himself when he first got to West Ham because he'd be throwing himself into dangerous headers and dangerous tackles. That's what he does best. Today, I think he was asked to do a bit more work in the midfield, and it wasn't to his game. Didn't play particularly bad, but he didn't play particularly good either. He was like a passenger. There was almost no real reason to have him on the field because he wasn't providing us with anything that we needed. Wasn't letting the team down, but also wasn't providing anything decent anyway. If anything, the perfect player for me to come in would have been either Fornals or Lanzini, and just sit in that midfield and just start spraying balls. But I think Lanzini would have been my preferred option, because I think we were getting to that point in the second half where we needed someone to unlock. The balls over the top were fine. They were working well. But there were times where we were near the corners or near the wings and the ball was being played around that area and we needed to get into the centre. And if someone like an Ings or a Cornet or a Bowen had made a run just past the defender, to try and get in the 6-yard box, Lanzini would have been the person to just slip the ball through or just look for that killer pass, because Rice was also trying to find passes and he wasn't exactly able to find them today. He was okay today, but he wasn't at his best. Didn't play bad, didn't play brilliant either. I think other players stepped up apart from Souček and Rice and whatever. So for me, other players stepped up a bit more today. I'm quite pleased about it. Declan Rice shouldn't always have to play like a world-class player for you to say that he's had a good game. Declan Rice can have quiet games, absolutely. You have a quiet game, mate, providing everyone else does their job right. And like I said, today wasn't a bad performance. It wasn't. It was just frustrating because we lacked that killer instinct, and we needed a win. I don't think today a draw is good enough. I think we needed to win. So more than a year, mate. More than a year. Yep, 100% Downs for me. It should have been Downs, Rice, and Paqueta for a long while now, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think for me the thing with Souček is if you're going to play him like he was today, a more orthodox midfielder, then you can't play him. I just don't see what he brings.
No.
Like you, I think you get a lot more out of someone like Lanzini in a game like today against Villa at home. Lanzini would have absolutely troubled that Villa back.
Just on Lanzini, people think he's small and timid. He's not. He likes to tackle. He will put himself into those positions where if a player underestimates him, he'll nick a ball out of their feet or he'll put in a tackle. So don't worry about that. Lanzini likes a challenge. Make no mistake about that.
Yeah, and his use of the ball is fantastic. I mean, he's got the vision. He can pick out a pass.
I've just seen a comment, and I'm really sorry to interrupt you. Right, Epic Hash Time. Yeah, Epic Hash Time has put a comment saying Souček should be a centre back. I think I said this to you and Anton and Matt.
Yeah.
Tell me a little while back, and you all laughed at me. Right, so now I'd like you to laugh at Epic Hash Time like you laughed at me and called me an utter and said I was talking out my box because thank you, Epic Hash Time, thank you, because it might be enough.
I don't know. I just
it might be enough comment, but I'm thankful that someone else.
Yeah, as long as he promises to only hoof balls forward, I do not want to see him at centre back trying to play passes.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
we can compromise.
He's a Vidic. He's not the ball playing centre back.
No, just fucking hoof it. Yeah, hoof it clear.
Get out of there.
Yeah, don't try and play football in there for Christ's sake, Souček. But yeah, I think with Souček, I wouldn't play him deeper. And to be honest, I mean, I'm nothing against the guy, right? It sounds like I'm going to get on his back. I'm nothing against Souček. He's a good pro and he'll always try. But I just think there are much better players sitting on the bench, to be
Yeah.
completely honest,
Yeah.
who will be of much more use to the team, regardless of where you play him. Whether you play him deep, if you're going to play him deep, just play Lanzini, play Downs, play Fornells in there in the midfield three. Any one of those three would be an improvement immediately on
Hmm.
Souček. If you're going to play him further forward to help supplement the attack, again, you're better off play someone like Lanzini there, or even play Scamacca as a number 10, sitting behind Ings. Scamacca's got height. He can win the aerial. Ball's pumped up there. He can win the headers and flick them on.
Yeah.
He can also hold the ball up. He's got good feet. He can get turned quickly. He's got way more pace and mobility than Souček. He can turn the player. He can run at the back line. He's a good passer of a ball. We've seen him spray the ball about up front in the final third, and he can finish. And he can also attack corners because he's 6'4" or 5",
Yeah.
whatever it is. So I think you just get an awful lot more out of Scamacca in that advance role than you ever would from Souček, without losing anything really. I'm sure Scamacca will be happy to stand at the near post and corners, which is all Souček is doing. So, I just don't understand it. Look, Moyes just fucking loves the guy. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Just loves him and loves to play him, and that's it. And so we're going to be seeing Souček, and that's the end of it, I think. We'll come to Scamacca later, though. But also then, as I said, on the flanks, Luke, Benny and Bowen really were the two players that carried virtually all of our threat today. They were really good, both of them.
Yeah. No, they were. They were. Bowen was actually, when Bowen is at his best, I would honestly say, and people are going to laugh at me for saying this, but think about the context I'm saying it in. Bowen is our Messi. The way he runs with the ball, the way he beats players, the pace that he's got, and when he's on form, his finishing is fantastic. So today, he was back to his best, but his decision making in the final third, his final ball, was severely lacking. And I think he's had a couple of chances recently in the last two games, not today, I think previous to that, where he's shot and it's gone, he hasn't scored. And I think that's the old Bowen of last season would have scored those chances. So I think he's having a confidence issue. He's definitely not the player he used to be, and he needs to get that back, because on his day he's a fantastic player and he's definitely worth the 50 odd million that Liverpool were weighing up buying him for last season, etc. Benrahma, for me, he actually, to an extent, I think if you're going to pull Ings off, you could have put Benrahma up front, because he had everything about his game apart from the goal. And if you'd have given him, he had that one chance, didn't he, where the ball come over and he chested it down and he went to hit it. And I can't remember what happened, because the defender was in my way and everyone around me said, "Oh, I can't believe it didn't go in." But I didn't really see the chance itself. But he's just I think he's stepping up in spite, or just to spite, David Moyes. I think he's doing it to show that what he's got. It's not an arm around his shoulder saying, I've got my manager's trust here. He's going, I'm going to prove to David Moyes every game that I'm good, which is your own manager. It's your own manager. You should have support with your own manager. You didn't have to do it just to get the manager to go, okay, I won't overgo you this week. It's like, I know sometimes managers do that, so that they don't get the best out of their players. But what?
Can I ask you, Luke? Do you think Benny's won him over? Because he plays every game now, pretty much. Do you think Benny's finally won Moyes over? Because he starts. Like, I fully expect, Benny will start against Southampton, guaranteed. I mean, he does start games.
I'm not being funny. There was me and a few others around me today, who were waiting for Benny's number to come up when Cornet was warming up, and we thought, when's Ben?
That would have been fucking criminal.
That I genuinely think there would have been riots in the stands if it had happened. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were groans when he missed his shot and he missed that and he missed the other stuff. But him taking it round, the Aston Villa defenders was almost poetry today. He was doing it with ease. He was doing it without thinking about it. There was a couple of flicks and a back heels and stuff like that. And he was getting past them with ease, and it was fantastic to see. And it was Benrahma full of confidence is a joy to watch. And the only frustrating thing, and if Moyes had come out and said this, you kind of go, do you know what, fair enough, because he has got a bit of a point. But the final ball, it was very unlucky. There was a moment where I think he took it right from the left-hand side and he cut back in onto the outside of the area and tried to curl it to the opposite side of the goal. And it just went past the post. And
Yeah, that was close.
yeah, and it was like this on his day, that bloke is a fantastic footballer. And I don't think West Ham fans have seen the best of him because Moyes has been manager, because clearly he needs someone to put his arm around him and go, you're a good footballer, you're a great footballer. On your day, you could be the best attacker in this team. Now, to a level, I'm not going to get too deep about this, but to a level, I think Benrahma's been our best attacker or our best outlet this season because the rest of the team has been so poor. Do you remember last season we were in the Europa League semi-final, we were playing really well, and every player was really good. He wasn't really thought of as being one of our best players. He was thought of as you could bring him on as a sub to maybe change things, but you wouldn't have relied on Benrahma last season. It was all about Fornals and Bowen and Antonio, etc. So this season he stepped up in a season where the other players haven't. So fair play to him because I think he knew he was in that position. I think he knew he had to step up a little bit. And then this is
it'll be interesting to see what happens now with Cornet back. So
I
I
don't want
think
to see
Moyes
Watford again.
by the time our next game comes around, we've got a little break now before that.
Haven't we?
But by the time the Southampton game comes around, Moyes will surely consider him to be fully fit. He'll presumably get more game time on Thursday night, Cornet. And I just wonder, what does that mean for Benny? Is he going to just drop Benny like a bad habit? No, he's got Cornet back and put Cornet out on the left. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know what he's going to do, to be honest with you. I really don't know what he's going to do. I think Cornet's a bit both-footed, isn't he? I know he's left-footed mostly, but he can play with his right foot as well. So potentially he could be the new right back or right wing back, which means we could be seeing a five-wing back again. I don't know. But if he's going to play Cornet as a centre forward, especially over Scamacca, because of his pace, then that also changes the demographic up front. Because if he sees him as someone who can try and get in amongst a defence, then
the first thing you have to do is teach him the offside rule.
Him and Antonio and quite a few others, I think, because but that was quite. It was almost like I was. It's horrible, that feeling, isn't it? Because it's horrible now because I don't put the flag up straight away. So sometimes I'm like, go on, and I'm going, no, because you're going to be offside, and then the flag doesn't go up, and you go, oh, I should have celebrated. That's obviously how VAR's killing it, but still, like, he done well to get in those positions. But yeah, someone needs to sit him down in a classroom and go, listen, this line, stay behind that. All right, so
it's not like, I mean, he's got so much pace. He could give the defender 2 yards. He's still getting there first. You know what I mean? So
bang, he's off.
Yeah, he's off to the races. He's a greyhound. He doesn't need to be like hovering that close to the offside line.
I need to watch the highlights because I think that the chance that he missed when he was 1-on-1, I didn't quite see it because I think by the time he got his shot away, an Aston Villa defender had come over and the goalkeeper had come out. So I need to see that again. But he done well to get in that position the first one. I think about 2 or 3 times he done it, didn't he? And I think the second time or the third time, the ball went under his foot and the control was awful. I mean, he's still offside. He was offside anyway, but he didn't know that. So that's a bit worrying. But yeah, no,
it could just be an issue of just needs a bit of match sharpness.
Yeah, of course it is. It's all down. I'm not going to go too much, but it does change the demographic. But this is the thing: having all the players that were signed in the summer change the demographic. Unfortunately, that demographic isn't clear to David Moyes because it hasn't mattered at all throughout the season who's fit and who's not. The same players play over and over again, so that's when it gets frustrating.
Yeah, and obviously on the other side, Bowen had one of his better games of the season. I thought he absolutely skinned Moreno over and over again. He clearly was just too good for Moreno. And even Luca Dean, when he came on, was struggling with him. He got in behind him a couple of times. So hopefully, fingers crossed, a sign of things to come that maybe Bowen has kind of rediscovered his form.
Yep. Yeah, you'd like to think so. You'd like to hope that he's going to get back to his best. I think he's a brilliant player on his day. I said to my brother earlier on, I was on the way to the game, that I don't think Bowen's been the same since he hit the bar in the Europa League semi-final against Frankfurt. I think if he'd have done that, we'd have won the Europa League. That is how momentum-wise I felt about it. And I also think if he'd have scored that, got that goal, he'd have been in the England team. I think his confidence went with that when they hit the bar.
What a goal that would have been! Oh, come on.
Oh, don't, because this, the stadium at that point was just begging for a goal, and I think we all sort of knew that our luck wasn't there when that didn't go in. That would have been one of the best European goals of all time. So, yeah, hopefully he gets his back, because he's a confidence player as well. Apparently, I didn't realize how much he was, but it's not his confidence, and he needs to get it back because he's a fantastic player.
Yeah, frustrating day for Danny Ings though. Wasn't really given a single opportunity to score all day, really, and it's incredible that he lasted 85 minutes.
It is, but it's also very predictable, because that is the classic thing of West Ham at the minute. I think if we were still that cutthroat counter-attacking team that we were from, say, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, he might have had better luck in our team. But he's turned into one of those players, or he's been turned into one of those players that needs service. So we're signing these strikers, and basically we can't. The only player that can suit our system is Antonio. That's basically what it is. It happened with Van Artovich. The only players that can sort are the workhorses who are strong and can battle and can hold the ball up, etc.
Yeah, that's why I want to see Scamacca behind him in the number 10 role. If they can strike up a good partnership there, they can help support each other, and get some ball in there. The Souček in the last few games has been picking the ball up in some very good positions, in advanced positions. And I'd love to see someone like Scamacca picking the ball up in those positions. We do a lot more with it, and I think that would help Danny Ings out as well, because Souček, as soon as the ball comes to him, he looks for the easiest pass he can find.
He's a deer in headlights, mate. He panics.
Yeah, he just looks around like, who can I pass it to? He's first person he sees who's very close by. He just pops it off to him.
Do you know,
he doesn't really do anything with it.
That's one of those times that this is when I say, I want Declan Rice to step up as captain. I want Declan Rice to put his arm around him and go, "Don't worry, calm down. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Don't worry about it. Don't listen to all these people. Don't listen to 60,000 who are going to groan when you lose the ball. Just concentrate on yourself. Calm down, and just think about it." And I tell you now, if he put his arm around him and said, "You're with me, mate. I'm your mate here. Don't worry about it." He'd relax more. He'd relax more, and he'd be a better player, because that's what he is. A panicker. He is panicking every time he gets the ball. He is panicking, and he's thrusting it, and he's he's misjudging everything that he does, and he's overthinking everything that he does, and it's not good for a player of his ability. I have nothing against Thomas Souček. I think he's a great bloke. He comes across as a nice guy. I'm sure he doesn't want to play terrible, and we've changed his role over the last year or so. So if someone like David Moyes, if you're going to play him every game, then put your bloody arm around him, son, and tell him everything's going to be all right, because he needs it, quite clearly.
Yeah, and just before we finish up on the game itself, man of the match?
I'm going to say Benrahma for the goal and for the way he played. He was, I'm not going to say unstoppable, but it was almost like the Villa players couldn't tame him. They had no answer for him, and he was always there when there was attack going on. So
it was almost like Benny was like the one player all game who seemed like determined to try and win that game for us.
Yeah.
Okay, his shots didn't come off.
No, but he tried.
But, Christ, he was trying. He was destroying Matty Cash. And getting into really good positions, and he wasn't afraid to rattle off a shot. I wish more of our players would have that attitude up there. Especially Bowen today. I wish Bowen had that attitude. I'm going to cut inside here. I'm going to rattle a shot off. See if I can, win us this game. Bowen didn't ever really do that. So yeah, I completely agree. I think Benny more than any other player tried to win us that game today.
Yeah, 100%. No, my man in the match. After all, got the goal. He scored the penalty. So he's got the point for us. So as much as anything, he's the difference maker today for us,
Yeah.
or the level maker.
Yeah. So, do you think point gained or two dropped ultimately?
Two dropped. Ultimately, two dropped. We're at home against Villa. They're not unbeatable. We just missed our chances. It's as simple as that, and that's what's frustrating. You need to get your points in when you're in a relegation battle, and you need to take your chances and be clinical. And unfortunately, you weren't. So performance-wise, I'm no complaints over the performance. It was more frustrating, and the manager didn't help things. So that's my some summary.
Yeah, unfortunately, Moyes, when it comes to substitutions, he's never really covered himself in glory on those. He has a one-track mind when it
He's
comes to the final kind of 20 minutes of a game. He just wants to see it out. If we're earning a point, he just wants to see it out to the point. Unfortunately,
he's allergic to substitutions. That's what I've come to. Comes out in a rash when he brings anyone on.
Yeah, what can you do? All right, listen, we'll leave it there. Really appreciate you coming on, Luke. I know you're
No
a
worries.
busy boy at the moment,
Yeah,
at home
tell me
there
about it.
with the little one, with the wee girl.
Pleasure
But
to come on.
yeah, but listen, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Also, obviously, to everyone in the chat, really appreciate you joining us. And
Cheers.
we'll see you all again soon. So until then,